most people, to the untrained eye, are going to sit here and say that this owner starved her dogs.
We're going to head up to that dog hall right now. So we'll go out, we'll assess the situation.
I mean, look at that. These dogs look like garbage. I mean, that's just not... Did you see there's bags of food there?
She was very upset about losing all of her cats. She called me up a few times in tears.
I need my photos. I need to be able to paint this picture for the judge so that he sees what I see.
Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome, everybody, to the June 8th, 2026 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the reception desk and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed, and upon a motion, a second, and discussion of vote will be taken. That introduction, I'd like to ask Commissioner Sink to please lead us in invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please rise.
Good afternoon. As we begin today's meeting, let us take a moment to center our attention on this responsibility before us. During this month of June, as communities across the country recognize Pride Month, we are reminded that the places we plan and shape should reflect the dignity, safety, and belonging of all people. May we approach today's work with open minds, respectful listening, and thoughtful consideration for the many residents, neighborhoods, businesses, and future generations affected by our decisions. Let our discussions be guided by fairness, integrity, patience, and a shared commitment to build a stronger, more inclusive Hillsborough County.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Sink. All right. Next up, I'll have the clerk please call roll.
Bowden. Cardenas.
Here.
Kona. Jemison. Kugler.
Here.
Linkos. Lauk. Sieben.
Oh,
Here.
Linkus is here. Sieben stepped out for a moment, but she's here.
Sink.
Here.
Orton.
Renee came in, sitting in for Michelle Orton today.
Tony Rodriguez.
Here.
Chair Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to swap agenda items really quick because one of our planning commissioners had to step out, so we don't actually have the voting quorum just yet. So we will start off with agenda item 4A. It's a presentation that we do not have to take action on, and for that will be Urban Expansion Area Planning Study, I-4 Corridor and Little Manatee South Status Update, and the presenter will be Sophia Garantiva.
There we go. All right. So again, thank you, Commissioner Sophia Garantiva, Planning Commission staff, here presenting a status update on the Urban Expansion Area Study for the Little Manatee South and I-4 Corridor study areas. So since our December update, existing conditions and the market analysis work has been completed for both study areas, and public engagement efforts have continued. There is a lot of information that I'm going to be going through that was taken from the technical reports, so I'll just be highlighting the key findings and takeaways. And for those interested in reviewing the reports in a little bit more detail, they are available through the links provided in the agenda items summary. And then before I get started, I think it's helpful to go ahead and briefly revisit how the study originated. So this process started with the unincorporated Hillsborough County's future land use update, which updated the Urban Service Area, or USA, growth management policies. It was during that effort that staff noted projections indicated the policy of accommodating 80% new growth and redevelopment within the Urban Service Area, would not be met by 2050. So this led to the board's 2023 direction for staff to identify areas for potential expansion of the USA. So again, staff identified the 4 areas as shown on the map. And these areas were initially identified by analyzing locations outside the urban service area where population growth was projected to occur. Additional analysis considered comprehensive plan policy, concentrations of recent development activity, location of environmentally and publicly owned lands, and the distribution of developable and redevelopable land. And this analysis was documented in a report presented to the Board of County Commissioners on March 6th and is available on the project website. And at that meeting, the board directed the 2-phase approach that we've been following, which is phase 1, which focused on the Balm and Waiwama areas, which has since been completed, and then phase 2, which focuses on the I-4 corridor and the Little Manatee South study areas. Okay, so this brings us back to the goal of the study itself, to provide recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on whether and where to consider future expansion of the urban service area. And this is using the Urban Expansion Area Policy Framework in the Future Land Use Objective 1.3. And as a reminder, the UEA framework requires a more comprehensive planning effort before any future USA expansion is considered. And that includes evaluating infrastructure, transportation, environmental resources, fiscal impacts, public facilities, and community input. And then before we get into the findings, this slide provides the quick overview of where we are in the overall study process. Green represents Little Manatee South, purple represents the I-4 corridor, and the yellow line shows where we are today. Since our December update, again, we've completed a few key milestones in both study areas. Public engagement has continued, with round 1 being completed and round 2 currently underway. And the next major phase of the study will focus on developing and evaluating land use scenarios. And again, as mentioned, we are working in the second round of public engagement, and both areas are following the same engagement framework as shown, with each round building on the previous one. Round 1 was the existing conditions and initial community input. Round 2 is helping inform scenario development through a place type activity. Round 3 will present draft scenarios for feedback, and round 4 will focus on the preferred scenario and refined recommendations. And in addition to community meetings, the project team has also continued outreach to stakeholder and community groups representing a variety of interests in both study areas. Updates have also been given to the Board of County Commissioners. And I'll touch on some of those study area specific efforts and what we've heard a little later in the presentation. So we've continued coordination with county departments, partner agencies, and adjacent jurisdictions through the Technical Advisory Committee. This group has provided valuable data, technical feedback, support through the study, including assistance at community meetings. So I wanted to take a moment to thank them for their time and continued involvement. Now moving on to the existing conditions. There is a lot of information, as I mentioned, so again, just focusing on the high-level takeaways, starting with Little Manatee South. So again, the Little Manatee South area here is outlined in red. The area generally is bounded by the Little Manatee River to the north, US 41 to the east, and the county line to the south, and Interstate 75 to the west. In total, the study area encompasses approximately 10,213 acres. In terms of demographics, the Little Manatee South study area is home to approximately 8,860 residents, living in about 3,500 households. The area is an older population profile than the county overall, and while the area remains predominantly rural today, it has continued to attract new residents over the past decade and is projected to continue growing through 2050. In terms of land use and environmental considerations, agriculture remains the dominant land use throughout much of Little Manatee South, and it's more than 2/3 of the study area that is designated agricultural rural 1 to 5. Residential developments generally concentrated along US 41 and the Little Manatee River, and the map here illustrates the environmental sensitivity throughout the study area. The darker shaded areas represent lands with greater environmental sensitivity. So in Little Manatee South, those areas where the sensitivity of the environment is greater are generally concentrated along the Little Manatee River and along the Curiosity and Wildcat Creeks. And for transportation, US 1 currently serves as the primary roadway through the study area. There's limited bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and relatively few program transportation improvements. The map also shows several long-range planning efforts, including the proposed Fort Hamer road extension, a potential future I-75 interchange, proposed trail corridors, and a future I-75 widening. And in terms of utilities, there are currently no county water or wastewater utilities serving the area. The only exception is a small area in the Sun City subdivision, and the planned service expansions in the greater South County area will not be serving the Little Manatee South, so that's one water. Any future expansion of water or wastewater into the study area would be accomplished one of 3 ways: extending the pipe across the Little Manatee River, relying on private developers to build new facilities and then turn them over to the county, or creating an interlocal agreement with Manatee County to get services from them. In terms of public and emergency services, they are also generally provided by facilities located outside of the study area boundary, and there are no current fire stations, sheriff stations, or traditional public schools located within the study area. There are 2 future fire stations that have been identified along US 41, but they remain unfunded, and the study area currently contains 3 parks. So the existing conditions tell us where the study area is today, and the market study then helps us understand what the market may support in the future. So because the markets operate regionally, the analysis evaluated a broader market area than the Little Manatee South study area itself. So you could see that on the map, the different colored sub-market areas. So in terms of the market study takeaways, residential development represented the largest market opportunity. The analysis also identified support for additional office, industrial, and retail development. And it's important to remember that these figures represent demand within the broader market area and are not development forecasts for the study area itself, and they're intended to inform the scenario development. In terms of public engagement, going back to that, in Little Manatee South, in Little Manatee South, outreach has included 2 rounds of community meetings, an online survey, public comments submitted through email and web forms, and field outreach as performed by the consultant team. And then this slide highlights the priorities identified through that survey, with protecting natural resources or natural areas and wildlife, ranking number 1, and maintaining agricultural land, ranking number 2. And then these results generally reinforce what we've been hearing out in the community in general. With those themes, again, being consistent, we also heard concerns related to flooding, water supply, and the proposed I-75 interchange. Overall, many of the discussions focused on how future growth could affect the area's character, environmental resources, and infrastructure. With that, I'll go ahead and shift geographies, and we'll take a look at the key findings from the I-4 existing conditions report. A reminder, I-4 is outlined, the boundary is outlined in purple, and it encompasses approximately 37,000 acres. The area generally extends from the urban service area boundary to the west, and the Tampa Bypass Canal, to Plant City in the east, Sam Allen Road and Thanonasassa to the north, and then State Road 60 to the south. And for additional context, the Plant City Vision Area boundary is also shown in yellow. And demographically, I-4 corridor is significantly larger than Little Manatee South, with approximately 31,000 residents in more than 10,000 households. The area also has a younger population profile and larger household size than what we saw in Little Manatee South. And looking ahead, the area is projected to grow, continue growing through 2050. In terms of land use and environmental considerations, the I-4 corridor has a more diverse mix of land uses, although agriculture remains an important part of the area's character. The environmental sensitivity map here shows that the environmental resources are distributed throughout the area, with most of the environmentally sensitive areas, again, shown in that darker shading, located north of I-4. And then from the transportation standpoint, I-4 stands out a little bit because of its access to the regional transportation network. There is direct access to I-4, I-75, US 92, and State Roads 60 and 574, which support the residents, businesses, and freight movement throughout the region. And the report also identified several planned transportation improvements, including the widening projects on I-4 and I-75, and other improvements programmed through the county's capital improvement program. Utility conditions in I-4 are, again, somewhat different than Little Manatee South. There are pockets of utility service throughout the area, primarily through the county on the west and then through Plant City to the east, but significant portions of the study area still rely on well and septic systems. And then for public facilities and services, emergency services, the area currently has 2 fire stations, 8 parks, and is served by 22 schools, including 9 within the study area. And there are several planned facility improvements that were identified, though some remain unfunded. And overall, the area does have a more developed network of public facilities and services in place today, though the continued coordination with service providers will remain important as growth occurs. And then similar to Little Manatee South, the market analysis looked beyond the study boundary to account for the broader market trends. And the goal, again, is not to predict exactly what will occur within the study area, but rather to understand what the market may be able to support over time. And so a key takeaway from the I-4 corridor area was the strong demand for employment generating uses, particularly industrial development. The analysis also identified additional demand for office and retail uses, and that's not entirely surprising given the corridor's access, again, to that regional transportation network. In terms of public engagement, The public engagement activities in the area to date include round 1 of community meetings. Again, the second round is starting this week. We also had a survey, again, public comments, and field outreach. And then this slide, again, highlights the priorities identified through the survey, and it does change a little bit from Little Manatee South, where now maintaining agricultural land ranks the highest, and following that, protecting natural areas and wildlife. And again, while the priorities were similar, the conversations around those priorities were a little bit different in the I-4 area. The themes identified through the overall public engagement were focused on rural character, infrastructure, flooding and drainage, environmental resources, water quality, and water quality and utility service choice. But many of those discussions reflected the challenges associated with the existing growth and development pressures in the area. I think that distinction will be important as we move into scenario development. So again, we've established where these studies are, the study areas are today, what the market may support over time, and what we've heard from the community so far. The next phase is where we're going to be piecing those together. We'll be in the I-4 corridor again this week, wrapping up round 2, and the next phase of work will focus on developing scenarios for each study area. And based on that feedback, we receive round 3. The study team will go ahead and refine scenarios, complete the fiscal and infrastructure analyses, and identify a preferred scenario. Again, those findings will help inform the final recommendations that ultimately come back to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. So that concludes my presentation and the status update. Staff is available for any questions, as is the consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good timing. All right.
Practice that.
Are there any questions or comments on this from the commissioners? It's a presentation, so we don't have any real action to take on this one, but any thoughts, questions, or comments on the study so far? Commissioner Sink.
A quick question. You mentioned choice in water and wastewater for the I-4. Can you walk me through where those concerns are and what they entail?
Sure. We did hear from folks the concern of having to potentially be forced to switch to water and wastewater services. There are folks that like being on well and septic, and so that is part of the conversation, that people don't want to be put on water and wastewater services.
All right. Are there any other? I did have a request for you. When this comes back, it's interesting to me. This presentation makes it seem that the Little Manatee area is a little more sensitive than the I-4 area. One stat, I guess, that you don't speak about are rural land use categories versus urban land use categories. And since you're kind of looking at it from land use, I can tell we aren't talking about like zoning or parcel level stuff. I get it, that's not our purview. But rural versus urban land use categories, I'd like to understand what quantity of each there are right out there. So going forward from here forward, when we talk about Little Manatee, when we talk about I-4, I want to understand what the ratio of rural land use categories is to urban land use categories as defined in our comp plan. Our comp plan does have a line between what is considered rural and what is considered urban. So I think that might be give a little more light to what's going on in the two different areas. I'm also interested in, I guess, and that'll come with time when the scenarios come out, how we're going to deal with, like in Little Manatee, there seems like a lot of environmentally sensitive areas that we're going to have to dance around. Coastal high hazard is also a big issue down there. So I'm interested to see, and I'm going to be patient and wait to see what the scenarios look like, but how we're going to be able to fit all this population into a highly environmentally sensitive coastal high hazard area down there with little infrastructure from what I'm hearing right now. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be pretty expensive to build out down there, or we're going to have to get some sort of partnership from the development community going forward. There's not a lot of fire and emergency services. The roads, you said, weren't very good. There's no water down there right now. So schools weren't very prevalent down there. So, and again, I know this process was brought forward as a process not to necessarily look into the current urban service boundary and try to be more efficient with what we're doing. The idea is to expand it. We're just going to expand it. And these are the areas we're going to expand it in. So I'm going to be really curious to see how we're just going to expand it into an area like this that has all these little, kind of nuances that we're going to be having to deal with. So coming forward, I'd like some more information on that. And again, like I said, I know it's going to come forward in the scenarios, but when the scenarios do come forward, that's one thing I'm going to have my eye on. So any information or detail into that sort of thing as the scenarios come forward will be appreciated.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Sink.
I'm also curious about the feedback we're getting from organizations. So like, I'm curious about the feedback of like the Hillsborough County Farm Bureau versus the Builders Association and the Board of Realtors, because the perspective of these people are completely different. And how does the study balance those in a way that we can understand their positions?
So we did speak with them, and like you said, everyone does have a little bit of a different interest, but gathering all of that is the important part, to see where those interests are, where they can intersect a little bit, and how those are going to be, again, what is on the ground, what is happening today. These are the experts in real estate, in agricultural, economies and things like that. So that's part of the reason we're going out and talking to them. These are the people that live out there and they know what's going on. And that's, again, helping us inform what these scenarios are going to look like, and the feasibility of some of those scenarios as well. So all of that is being taken into account. And again, I was pleasantly surprised with personally the Realtors Association. They did have a different perspective than I thought they would about the study. So it's surprising once you get out there and start talking to people out there in the community.
All right. Any other questions? I saw Ms. Zordy. Oh, Commissioner Linkus.
I guess just to build on your comments, Chair, I guess I'm curious, after seeing this information about Little Manatee South, if you could refresh my memory, and I think this kind of all started before I joined the commission, on why Little Manatee South is part of the consideration, and it does seem like it's important to look at, given that there is a lot of growth pressure down in that area. But I guess the framing of, are we definitely trying to do expansion in that area, or could the study tell us this may not be the right area? Is it pretty open what the results could be in terms of that area?
I'll tackle that one. Well, first of all, the part of the reason that the Little Manatee South area was selected was because when we looked at the rural area and the areas that have community plans, the Little Manatee South adopted community plan today says that when there becomes the opportunity for the urban service area to be expanded, they would like to be considered for that. So they, in their community plan, articulated that there could be a future where they were more than rural. And that was in the late 2000s that was adopted. So that was a factor that we looked at, was, well, this is a rural community that has expressed interest in maybe having something more. That's kind of rare in our rural communities. That being said, I did not take the Board of County Commissioners' direction to study these areas as the entire study area needs to be expanded into. They want us to look at them. The policies call for a certain type of study to be done in these expansion areas, and that may identify that parts of them are more appropriate for expansion and other parts are not. It may identify phasing that is appropriate, or that some parts are just should be left alone. So I think that is all a part of what we're going to find through this study.
If I could just ask one other question, and I know this is kind of a big question, so, but just could you educate me a little bit about sort of what the process would look like? When areas are, should there be any area in any of these study areas that might be appropriate for expansion? What would the process of looking at service expansion look like? Like if water was to come out to these areas, what's the process there? How much is the Planning Commission involved? What does that look like? I'm curious.
So we have been coordinating with the county on potentially what those processes will look like, but it'll be hard to say until we have some of those scenarios to kind of go through that thinking process, through that, thinking ahead and seeing what exactly could work, what might not work. We're also, as part of the charge the consultant has, is also looking at some funding sources as well. So if we do come across like maybe the traditional ways of funding that the county has right now might not cover this, okay, what are some other ways that might be able to be used in order to do that? But again, it really is going to depend on where those scenarios come and what that preferred scenario is going to look like, because then at that point is when we're going to have that full infrastructure analysis and fiscal impact analysis done. Thank you. No problem.
All right. Are there any other questions, thoughts from the commission? Commissioner Sink.
One more question. In regards to community feedback and participation, is there like an acceptable level that you would expect? And then how did the responses and the number of responses compare to what you guys actually expected it to be in the first place? Are you seeing more people, less people, more feedback, less feedback? Like, how does that look compared to what you guys expected?
So from what we expect, I mean, we've done a few community planning efforts. So when we go out and update community plans, it's generally around the same, kind of the same size, with the exception of I-4, that's a little bit larger. But we're seeing a pretty healthy, I would consider, turnout in terms of people coming physically to the meetings and also participating in the online surveys. We are getting, I believe we have over 90, I believe at this point, plus emails from the community. So it has been I think it's been pretty robust from what we've seen so far. And we continue, and we encourage people to continue to, stay in touch and send us their comments and continue going to the meetings. The more voices that we receive, the better.
All right. Are there any other thoughts, questions? I did have two more comments. First quick one was, as we look at the I-4 area, I think building on what Commissioner Link has said, but in a different area, we should really look at the I-4 areas around the I-4. I haven't heard, and again, I'm sure this will all come as soon as the scenarios come out, so I'm always getting ahead of myself here. But when those scenarios do come out in the I-4 corridor, I think, that I-4 is a huge asset. For years, decades now, we've tried to, really build that area up. So I think if there are areas where development makes sense, that seems to me like in and about the I-4 corridor would be a place where it makes sense. So just some more discussion and I guess thoughtfulness in how we're leveraging the I-4 and the areas in and adjacent to the I-4 in that, area would be good to hear as we go forward. And also, I was wondering, okay, going off what you said, which I agree with, we're not just whole cloth expanding everywhere. We're only going to pick now at this point, because we're here where we are, we're only going to pick selected areas in these two study areas to expand into. Will those areas that are left for us to actually do some expansion in, will that cover the population that we need to cover? You know what I mean? Like, because we were looking at this whole swath of area. After we shrink it down and say, okay, well, development's only good in these areas, will we then have to jump to other areas of the county to be able to handle the population number? Or is the population number just going to fit into these small areas? Or will the small areas have to flex to be able to carry the pop? Because don't forget, the whole thing that started this thing off was population projections. And we're trying to fit these population projections somewhere. And we're not trying to be more efficient with what we have. We just want to expand to fit them somewhere. So once we shrink it down, are we sure they're going to fit? And how does all that work?
Well, I don't think we're at the point that we have the answer yet. But I will say that as part of for example, in the I-4 corridor, a part of that map, there was the yellow line, east of which is Plant City's vision area. We've discussed with Plant City that they would like to, as part of their plan update, do some the master planning of that area. So we're not going to have the entirety of that original study area complete because Plant City's kind of coming from the other direction, looking at it as they're moving outwards. So there are a number of different things that, yes, we're going to have to kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together and see where we're at.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're talking in talks with Plant City, and that intergovernmental role for this agency, again, I've said it before, I think is a huge one, and that's something that we should leverage a lot. So I'm very happy to hear that's going on. So very good. All right. Any other thoughts or questions from the commissioner? Commissioner Sink, you sure? Going once, going twice? You good? All right. We'll thank you for the information then, and we will move on to our next agenda item. Now that we have our quorum, we'll jump back really quick to the approval of minutes. And we have the approval of minutes for Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, April 13th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on unincorporated Hillsborough County plan amendments, April 13th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, May 11th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on City of Tampa plan amendments, May 11th, 2026. And Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on unincorporated Hillsborough County plan amendments, May 11th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve out there? Anyone? Commissioner Kugler?
Yes.
All
I
right.
approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Kugler. Is there a second out there? Commissioner
Second.
Linkus? All right. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Kugler, second by Commissioner Linkus. Are there any discussions or comments from the commissioners before we take our vote? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we will go back to our action items. So we will go to 3A. All right, so we'll go to 3A, and we will start our action items with Temple Terrace Land Development Code, LDC text amendment, section 12-827 easements, and the presenters are Krista Kelly and Kim Ford.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff. The item before you is a publicly initiated plan amendment to the Temple Terrace Land Development Code, section 12-827, relating to stormwater and drainage easements. I will be turning the presentation over to Mr. Kim Ford, engineer with the Temple Terrace Public Works Department, who will present an overview of the amendment. This is an action item, so following Mr. Ford's presentation, I will present the Planning Commission staff's finding on consistency with the comprehensive plan. And
hi. My name's Kim Ford. I'm with Public Works Engineering Department, City of Temple Terrace. Here to present revisions to the Land Development Code, provide clarification and guidance regarding in support of easements. Easements include large areas on private property that have stormwater pipes and inlets. City of Temple Terrace needs to do work in the drainage easements, and the homeowners do not, I guess I'm trying to advance it, Krista. There we go. Thank you. Homeowners do not understand their shared responsibilities, restrictions that limit development, and the city's right to access. (12-827A) in our code requires a permit by the owner before working in an easement. Owner must obtain a permit for alterations. Could be a shed, could be landscaping. We need to be careful so they don't block the drainage. 12-827C describes shared responsibilities. The owner is responsible typically for mowing, reducing vegetation and obstructions. The city is responsible for major repairs. 12-827D identifies specific purposes for drainage easements. A drainage easement is accessible by the city at any time. Reasonable access should be provided without exceptions, and we should be able to go in there and get our work done. 12.827E explains responsibilities and restrictions. Easements are recorded and transferred to subsequent owners. I'd like to give it back to Krista.
Yes, thank you. Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff again. Planning Commission staff reviewed the proposed change to the Land Development Code Section 12-827 related to the stormwater and drainage easements and found the amendment consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan. Specifically, the proposed amendment is consistent with the Land Use Objective 8.5 and Policy 8.5.3, which relates to development approvals and consistency with the Land Development Code and state law. In addition, the proposed amendment is consistent with Land Use Policy 8.1.5 and Stormwater Policy 1.1.5, which encourage the construction, design, and use of easements to support existing and new growth and development. Based on the review, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find this Land Development Code amendment consistent with the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan and forward this recommendation to the Temple Terrace City Council. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any question, and also the Temple Terrace staff is here as well.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one, so I will turn it over to commissioners for questions, comments on this one. Not seeing any, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Linkus.
I'll make a motion to find the Temple Terrace Land Development Code text amendment section 12-827 easements consistent with the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan.
All right. Commissioner Kugler?
And I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Linkus, a second by Commissioner Kugler. Any questions, comments from the planning commissioners before we take our vote? Not seeing any, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up on our agenda, action item 3B, Temple Terrace Land Development Code, LDC text amendment, section 12-40, definitions, and section 12-81, reasonable accommodation procedures for recovery residences. And the presenters are Unica Mills and Alyssa Livingstone.
Good afternoon, Unica Mills Planning Commission staff. I'm here to introduce Alyssa Livingstone with Temple Terrace staff. She'll be reviewing with you this afternoon Land Development Code text amendment regarding recovery residences. After her presentation, I'll be back for a staff consistency finding, and then you all will need to take vote on this item.
Good afternoon. I'm Alyssa Livingstone, Senior Planner for the City of Temple Terrace. I'm here to present proposed text amendments to our Land Development Code regarding the definitions, policies, and procedures that govern recovery residents. This update is designed to align the city's administrative procedures with Florida statutes and federal fair housing protections. Specifically, the revisions focus on Section 1240, definitions, and Section 1281, reasonable accommodation procedures. The text amendment proposes incorporating the Florida statutes definition of certified recovery residences to resolve ambiguities within the city's current land development code. This formal designation ensures statutory alignment at the state level. The proposed amendment to Section 1281, reasonable accommodation procedures, implements the requirements of Section 397.487 Florida statutes by establishing a process for requesting reasonable accommodations from any land development code regulation that may prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence. In this section, A disabled individual is defined as someone who qualifies as disabled or handicapped under the FHA and/or ADA and has a disability as defined by Section 760.22 Florida statutes. These individuals may request reasonable accommodations regarding the city's LDCs and procedures as provided by the Federal Fair Housing Act and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. To ensure administrative accountability, the Community Development Department will date stamp completed applications upon receipt. The city manager or their designee may request additional information within 30 days of the initial filing. The applicant then has 30 days to provide the requested documentation. Once an application is deemed complete, the city has 60 days to issue a final determination. If a request is denied, the city must provide evidence-based reasons for the denial, identifying specific deficiencies or actions required for reconsideration. To ensure predictable timelines, the code establishes the 60-day review period as a firm deadline. Failure to meet this deadline results in a deemed approved status unless a written extension is mutually agreed upon by both parties. These proposed amendments ensure that the City of Temple Terrace remains a compliant and inclusive community, fully aligned with federal fair housing protections. By formalizing these procedures, we are providing certified recovery residences with a clear and consistent pathway for establishment under state-mandated guidelines. Staff recommends approval of these text amendments to ensure our land development code remains a precise and effective tool for the city. Thank you.
Planning Commission staff reviewed this land development text code amendment and found it consistent based on land use objective 8.5 and policy 8.5.3, which states that developments must be consistent with the land development code. Additionally, we found this request consistent with policy 2.1.2, which speaks to housing residents to meet the needs of the community. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. I don't believe we had anyone sign up in the public comment for this one either, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions of this one. Not seeing any, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this one. Commissioner Linkus.
I'd like to make a motion to find Temple Terrace Land Development Code Text Amendment Section 12-40 definitions and Section 12-81 reasonable accommodation procedures for recovery residences consistent with the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan.
All right, we got a motion of consistency finding. Is there a second anywhere out there?
I'll second that.
All right.
Seconded.
Motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Linkus, second to that motion by Commissioner Kugler. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts from the commissioners before we take our vote? Not seeing any, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least on our action items, 3C, proposed revisions to policies of the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. And the presenter is Mr. Sean College.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean College, Chief of Planning and Operation with your Planning Commission staff. There's been a number of changes at the federal and state level recently with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Specifically, the state of Florida recently passed a law prohibiting local governments and counties from having such programs. We don't have such programs at the Planning Commission, but we did look at all of our policies and such. And we did find in our policies of the Planning Commission, which are policies that are adopted by the Planning Commissioners, a mention of diversity in contracting. So in looking at the entirety of the policies, we're recommending some changes. We have this in your packet. The substantive changes to the policies of the Planning Commission are on pages 10 and 11 of your packet of this item. What we're proposing to do is to remove the diversity and contracting section. We're proposing to make sure we include a small business enterprise aspect to contracting, which is something consistent with the state and federal law. What we're finding is also within these policies, there's a great deal of reporting mentioned. There's annual reporting with regard to diversity, so we're recommending to delete that, and these quarterly reporting. As you know, our executive director gives monthly, at every meeting in her executive director's report, gives a report on our contracts and such. So we're going to keep that monthly reporting, strike the quarterly and annual reporting is recommended. There's also updating of the protected classes listed in the document. This is the current standard with regard to non-discrimination. And finally, what is being proposed, we have looked, and it is consistent with what our partners at the City of Tampa and the county are doing with regard to their policies and contracting. This is an action item, and we recommended that you adopt these changes. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one either, so I will turn it over to the planning commissioners for questions, comments. Commissioner Kugler.
Yes. The thought that if we address it as a small business approach, that we can continue forward with diversity in our contracting because of that. That it might offset some of the measures taken in the diversity DEI area.
Well, all I can say in that is that small business enterprise is something, again, supported by the state of Florida, and our partner local governments are doing that, and that small businesses are a good driving force of the economy, and it's good to support them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts from the commissioners? All right, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Anybody? Commissioner Linkus.
I will make a motion to find the proposed revisions to the policies of the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. This is consistent with the plan, I guess? Is that what I'm finding it with?
We're approving them.
Approving. Okay, approving it.
Okay. All right. Is there Commissioner Kugler?
And second that, please.
All right. So we have a motion to approve these changes to the policies, Hillsborough County City Planning Commission policies, and a second to that approval motion by Commissioner Kugler. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners before we take our vote? It would all signify their agreement by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have 4B, which is a pseudo action item, so I guess I might be wrong here. Unincorporated Hillsborough County Urban Service Area Options for Next Steps, and the presenter is Melissa Dickens.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. One moment, let me pull up the presentation. All right. You all have been having a number of good discussions over the past several months on the urban service area. We've gotten a lot of good input from you. We've heard from our county partners, and we wanted to take this opportunity to get your feedback on how we should move forward. What should we do in terms of timing and approach for further analysis of the urban service area? So today, we'll briefly recap the previous urban service area agenda items. We recognize that different folks may have been here at different meetings, so we want to make sure that we bring everybody up to speed of where we've been over the past few months. Then we'll outline some different options for you all to consider in terms of next steps for further evaluation, both the timing of those steps and the approach. And then our request, our humble request to staff, is that you all discuss and provide us with a motion on the preferred timing and approach for further evaluation. Going back a few months, beginning with February 2026, there were some discussions before this in November and December of 2025, but this is really when there was an agenda item before you all. We came before you all with a scope to evaluate the urban service area and potential alternatives. You all said this is probably a little bit too much, and you wanted to do some additional study beforehand. So your direction was to conduct an informational workshop and also engage a facilitator to gather perspectives from you all and help identify areas of consensus and concern. Then at the March regular meeting, you all voted to transmit a letter to the Board of County Commissioners outlining some of the issues with the urban service area and requesting direction. At that meeting, there was a little bit of a shift, and you all indicated that we should defer procurement of the facilitator pending Board of County Commissioner feedback, but still continue the plans for the informational workshop. Then on the April 2026, I believe it was April 15th, the Board of County Commissioners had an agenda item related to the letter, and they also mentioned the forthcoming UEA updates, which you all heard from Sophia earlier. They'll be hearing later this week. They did not take any formal action at that meeting, but there was discussion about a future action item on the topic. Then we came back before you in April to ask for some questions and topic areas you all would like to have discussed at the informational workshop. And then most recently, last month, you all heard from both our staff and the representatives from the various Hillsborough County departments, the property appraiser and the TPO, to provide a broad overview of the urban service area. We appreciate you all. I know that was kind of a long informational item, but we hope you found it valuable to understand the different nuances and how different folks use the urban service area. And then at that meeting, there was a discussion of continued examination of the urban service area, what would be some opportunities to hear from additional stakeholder groups, folks like the development community, the agricultural community, rural residents. And then there was also some informal discussion about areas for further evaluation. So we heard some support for how can the urban service area policies be better aligned to support agriculture in the rural area? How can we look at our policies related to infill and redevelopment within the urban service area? How does the urban service area affect housing affordability? Is there an opportunity to do a geospatial analysis to get some additional information on some of these issues? And then looking at the range of development patterns, rural, suburban, and urban. And there has been a lot of great, thoughtful, important discussion on this topic, and we think that the time is right to solidify how we move forward on this. We'd like to get some additional direction from you all on the timing and what you would like the next phase of this discussion to look like. Okay, so first we'll talk timing. So there are a few different options in terms of when we pursue this. The second option is option B. We can go ahead and pursue further examination at this time. We can start some of the approaches that you'll see on the next couple of slides. We also could pursue further examination following any future direction from the Board of County Commissioners. If you recall at that April meeting, there was mention of that, so that could be something that's out there. And then option C, excuse me, that is a typo, it should say beginning of 2027, pursue further examination following the completion of the urban expansion area studies. You heard an update from Sophia. That team is hard at work, so should we wait until that is completed to pursue further examination? And I'll just add a note that, you know, if we do decide to wait, we would suggest that we revisit the approaches because some context may have changed. There may be some changes out there that we want to relook at those approach options. So you all can decide one or both of these items today. And then there's a number of different ways that we could look at the further examination of the urban service area. These options are not mutually exclusive. You could pick more than one. You could pick all of them. We really want to provide as many different options as possible for you all. So the first is going back a few months to that idea of having a facilitator for you all to have some more discussions about identifying some of the key issues, refining those key issues. What exactly are we trying to help with? How can we best help with issues like agriculture, our infill and redevelopment policies, affordability, and our development patterns? And we would intend that that approach would also include some refined topics for evaluation. Those would reflect the areas of consensus and topics for additional study, some options for performance metrics, which we know is important to this board, either potential analysis or geospatial evaluation, what would need to be looked at and what metrics would need to be defined, and then a draft scope of services for further analysis. The second option is facilitating stakeholders. So this could either be done by a private consultant or a third-party organization to meet with stakeholders individually, hold focus groups or interviews representing a range of different perspectives, and then come back to you all. Either the consultant or the third party would come back to you all, summarize and present their findings to you. And then option C, the public participation workshop. This would be in accordance with the Planning Commission bylaws. There would be an opportunity to hear from both specific stakeholders who could be invited as well as the general public. And then option D, Sophia mentioned those urban expansion area meetings. We're having a number of those in the community over the next several months. We heard that there was a desire to hear directly from rural residents. So this could be another option. You all are welcome to join us in either the I-4 area or Little Manatee South to hear what some of the stakeholders are saying with respect to growth and development. And I should say, just going back, I forgot to mention this, but in terms of the costs, we're trying to keep it under $50,000 so that we can have a more expedited procurement. There are different rules. When it's under $50,000, it's a little more expedient. So that's why we've kept the initial facilitation that low. That would just be the first step. That would not be $50,000, gives us an extensive study, but really that would help, that would provide enough for us to have a facilitation with you all or have stakeholder facilitation. And then these items, there would be no cost for either the public participation workshop or you all joining us at our public meetings. And with that, our requested action from you all is to provide a motion on the preferred timing option or approach option for the further examination of the urban service area. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment on this one, so to the planning commissioners for questions, comments, discussions, thoughts. Commissioner Kugler.
I was looking at the timing options, and timing A involves BOCC, which seems to me fairly important on this issue. That's just my thought on the timing one. And as far as the approaches, we've been dealing with this issue for a long time. We are almost the consultants in a way on it. So I'm wondering if perhaps C or D might be totally appropriate. That's just thoughts and questions at the same time. I think that the BOCC probably would be well to involve them on the timing part at least.
All right,
thank you.
Thoughts, other thoughts or comments from the commissioners? I did have a general, and I didn't want to stop you when you came up, but there are so few of us here today. I was thinking I've been the bull in the china shop on this one, pushing this thing forward, but I'm always sensitive to make sure that all the commissioners get their thoughts in. I mean, you know me, I don't like to play games, political games and stuff like that. I'd rather us all be here, us all get our thoughts in, and then the larger vote kind of sway the day. So I didn't know if we could push this action item, push this motion that you want till a time when we have more commissioners here to have more input on it. I could go either way. I'd serve at the du jour of the board. So if the board wants to take some action now, that's also fine with me. But, you know, we're kind of light on people here today. And as Commissioner Kugler makes a good point, this board has kind of been, you know, what's moving this forward. So, and I know the question is always of this board. You want to get our input to give you all direction. So I'm always kind of sensitive to try and make sure everybody, as many as possible, you can't be perfect, but as many as possible are able to get their inputs in. So Commissioner Siebman.
Is it possible to make a comment now and then come back to it maybe next month when everybody else is here? Or should we just save the whole thing?
Yeah, you can make comments all you want. We can comment and talk and request and do. I was talking about the specific action, directing them to do this or directing them to do that. But we can have open discussion here, and there's some thoughts or some ideas you want to have, looked at or something.
Well, it's pseudo a directive, but so maybe talk about it now, maybe wait. But so just a suggestion, though. We had talked about it in my briefing, but in terms of getting outside opinions on something like this, it made sense to me. We did something like this in a similar fashion when we updated the City of Tampa's future land use plan, or suggested to update it, where I was thinking maybe something you had mentioned, developer input, so maybe some sort of combination between, I know that there are a lot of developers, residential developers involved in the Tampa Bay Builders Association, and then more commercial developers involved in ULI. So maybe some sort of meeting with both of those groups where we can go and sit and not comment, or I'll leave if somebody else comments, but just listen to what they have to say possibly, and maybe, invite the BOCC to do the same. Just a suggestion.
I'm going to leave that to Mrs. Ornita and staff council, because you've been trying to get into those meetings for a while now, and they seem to.
Me?
Yeah. Who, me?
Well, I'm allowed to go as an individual. I just mean, as far as, those opinions are concerned, I think developers are gonna probably be less likely to come to one of our meetings and sort of bash their heads against the wall against opposition, and maybe be open to speaking more freely in, the type of group where their thoughts and viewpoints are more common.
That's a little bit different of a twist than the options that were given. Do you all have any thoughts on that, Ms. Dickens, Ms. Ornita?
I think, that certainly could be a possibility. We could certainly look at that. I think we have great conversations with the ULI folks, with TBBA folks, so I think that's certainly something that we could coordinate. I think the one thing that we would want to make sure that is also done is how are we reaching the folks who are not in the development community, the folks who might be the rural residents or the agricultural groups. So we might just need to think about how are we making sure that they're included too.
Absolutely, and we had talked about that in my briefing. I know that you guys are hosting a lot of those meetings, so just maybe to get both kinds of opinions on something like this, that might also be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I would just say, I don't think that, I think that could be a part of an option B, where there's some facilitation of different types of stakeholder meetings and interviews, and maybe a report brought back. And I think the nuance that Commissioner Siebman's adding is that maybe some of those stakeholder meetings, there's the ability for the planning commissioners to attend and kind of listen to them, and then in addition to getting a report on them. But I think that that could be
B+.
Yeah, there you go.
Commissioner
And if there's any, issue with us attending, of course, a report is probably sufficient.
Okay. Commissioner Cardenas.
Yeah, I guess my only thought is, I remember, was it last year or the year before, we were working on the commercial corridor throughout Tampa, and we had the local, more so attorneys that were commenting on it. Do you recollect what I'm talking about? I feel like we provided a guide and a direction in that. I feel like in this type of situation, we'd probably get to that point too, where we have a little bit more of a guide and a direction before we're just blanketly opening it, because then it's going to take a different format where we may not even be going.
Commissioner Siebman.
My only thought as to that is, I don't know that we have a direction where we're going yet. So maybe getting other people's opinions might help us formulate a direction once we have.
I think he meant with the meeting itself, not like our general direction. He's talking about the format of the meeting that we have in that sense.
Yeah, I think the data that we figure out, that we find where this is telling us to do that, or this is telling us to do that, that's going to provide that format and direction, or that's going to tell us the points that we have to hit. And then we have conversations over those points.
I see what you're
versus
saying.
saying, let's just have a conversation.
Right.
We're just having a conversation. We're talking about who knows what, where if we have the data, we have some points, okay, this is what we're talking about. These are the sections.
That's a good point.
Yeah, fair.
Different ways of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, and if I may, we also could potentially, I mean, we did segment these out just so there would be different options to refer to, but we could do something that is almost a hybrid of what you both are suggesting, where maybe there's an initial conversation or consensus building with you all, and then we go out to the community so that there is a little more direction before we're out talking to the stakeholder groups. So we could, look at the different options and come back and see if that's something that we could propose for next month.
She did say we could do all of them if we wanted. So.
Yeah, well, that makes me think that with data, maybe we can develop a questionnaire. And that way, through that questionnaire, we're kind of creating a path.
Well, there's different ways of looking at it. Some would say that if you talk to the people first, the people might let you know that there's not even a need to look for data. So it's, potato. But your point is valid. I agree with you, and you make a valid, different way of looking at it. But it's just all different ways of looking at it. So, Commissioner Linkus.
I guess, so a takeaway for me from the workshop is that a lot of the folks who were in the room and presented to us that day really had fundamental ways that they were using the urban service area. So I didn't hear from those groups a lot of concerns about the urban service area, which I think is an important takeaway for our explorations, that there were a lot of functions that this is serving, and that I understood them to generally be expressing support for it. And that could be a subjective takeaway, but I don't recall hearing a lot of concerns about it. And in fact, I feel like a lot of what was expressed there was that it's fundamental to the planning processes. So I guess it's, and that does lean into points that I, have expressed over these last few months, where I do feel like it is a fundamental building block of the way planning is done here, and really, really, this is a huge undertaking. And yet I've also been persuaded, in sitting in the room and listening to some of the conversation, that there are some points of concern. And I guess I'm still at a point where I don't know. I'm still a little bit asking the same questions I have all along of like, what are we doing here? Why are we breaking this apart? But I guess if I were to look, there's some questions about why the 80%. I see us struggle with when we've got a decision right at the border. Some folks see it one way, some folks see it in the other, and there's an interest in kind of how do we do that. So if anything, I guess all of this together kind of leads me to think we've got a huge undertaking going on. This only months till it wraps up, if it's early 2027, I believe you said. So my inclination would be to let's get through that deep dive of knowledge that we're going to get about these three areas that are under study now, see if that kind of informs a broader kind of perspective. And then I think this is really a very serious undertaking that should look narrowly at kind of like the structural issues of the service area. And I think I share concerns with some of the other planning commissioners here about, could we find ways to make sure that we're absorbing a lot inside as well, instead of just looking at sort of what we do outside? So I think something like I like the idea of a sort of a ULI type group coming in, some outside experts to really say, how do you do urban service areas right? What's the best practices on that? What are we doing here? But I think digesting that after we kind of learn about these processes that are underway personally makes sense to me. And we've got this huge what if going on with property taxes and what that's going to mean, because this is all tied into how we fund local services. So all that said, I'm inclined towards option C, I believe. I believe that was the right one. Let's kind of wait and see what we learn from these huge undertakings, the folks who are really involved in this process, whether it be residents or developers, are going to be watching this, have a voice, start to get involved, and you know, there's no rush on this. There's enough going on, I think, for people to digest on this, and then let's kind of figure out how we take the next steps with the focus on kind of the procedural issues of you know, how do we do kind of simple expansions right at the border? How do we think about the overall ways that we're expanding it, and how do we think about funneling population into inside the urban service area too? That would be my takeaway.
All right, Commissioner Seaman.
The reason I brought it up is mostly because I feel like last time when we were trying to get feedback on the City of Tampa's future land use changes, it was like pulling teeth almost to get responses from developers. And I think that there are a lot of developers who have really good ideas about these kinds of things, but maybe don't feel like those ideas might be received well. And so my thought was, for the builders and for some of the local developers, you know, what are you seeing in other municipalities? Do you think that there are ways that these fees might go to better use, or ways that we can redo some of these things so we can, you know, how do you guys look at the urban service area? Do you think that that this is something we should have or not have, and why? Do you think that that there's going to be a much bigger increase in infrastructure costs if we get rid of it, and if not, why? And those are just kind of some of the questions I think, you know, outside of the experts, you know, that we have on, you know, the county staff and planning commission staff who see how these fees come in and interpret them. I think it could be sort of like the thing that you and I disagreed about last time. You know, you can see it, that you can read the numbers two different ways. So that was my thought is, you know, I wonder how they're interpreting all this.
And just a quick response, I think that's one reason I do think the suggestion about a ULI kind of organizing forum, which would be developer-led, and maybe not exactly the folks who have skin in the game, but sort of the folks who represent best practice in the industry might be a good organizer for this. I think they would be very sophisticated in handling it.
All right, I did want to say also and echo the comments on the presentation that we had last time with all county staff. You did an excellent job pulling that together. There was a lot of information in there, and it was a huge step forward that I've been trying to push this agency and all of our thinking towards, you know, and starting to branch out from this idea of we like the urban service boundary versus we don't like the urban service boundary. There's a larger question about the functioning of the urban service boundary. Okay, if you look historically at government and notice my color, there's been policies in government that people just keep doing and keep doing and keep doing and keep doing and don't think about, right? We have to stop at a certain point and think about what we're doing. I get that the policy's in 1,000 departments. There were policies back in history that were in 1,000 departments. And if somebody didn't stop and say, hey, what are we doing here? We need to change these policies, those policies wouldn't have changed. So I do agree that there's tons of departments around the county that are using this policy. But again, let's understand what we're using, right? Instead of just saying that, okay, well, every year we check these boxes and we can pat ourselves on the back because we're using what we're supposed to be using. Let's understand how what we're using is impacting the community, how, you know, what it's producing. Let's make sure it's producing what we want it to produce. So I think those are the questions that this effort is really about. And those are different questions than the UEA studies are about. You know, those urban expansion areas, again, were birth of a directive to expand the urban service area. We're asking, how is the urban service area functioning? Those are two distinctly different questions. So I tend to disagree a little bit with this idea that we should wait. I think the urban expansion area study is necessary. I think it's good. I think the information we're receiving on it has been great and it needs to keep going. But this process here has a completely different focus, you know what I mean? And I do believe that the outcomes of this process are going to be different than the outcomes of the urban expansion area process. Again, it's not one versus the other. It's yes and. It's all together and, you know what I mean? But I don't think we should be afraid of either one. You know, there's strong opinions on both sides. One side wants the urban service area completely removed. The other side wants the urban service area blindly maintained. I tend to fall more in the middle of that. You know what I mean? No one knows. It's a democratic process. No one knows what the ultimate answer is going to be or yield. So I just always try to suggest calm. Let's not all clutch our pearls, and let's move forward with knowledge and focus in what we're doing. And I do think that this process needs to move forward. You know what I mean? These questions are germane. You know, those questions that I asked earlier when we were talking about the UEA study, you're quick to give a good response. Well, it might not be good in certain areas. We may have to shrink it down. And then I'm good in my response. Well, if we shrink it down, where's population? These are real issues. You know what I mean? So, and this, what we're talking about here, starts to answer and direct information on how to respond to those issues. Some of the things Commissioner Linkus was talking about, the issues we have when we're at the edge, and this board doesn't know what to do. Being more efficient, directing it back in, you know, what you said about working with the different municipalities. I think interjurisdictional working is going to be a key and important thing, you know what I mean? And so looking at ways we can really do that, not in reaction to what the Board of County Commissioners said to do, but in ways we can, with a good planning framework, really set up, you know, mechanisms to do good interjurisdictional work when it comes to how we grow and, you know, put people places. So I do think this needs to go forward. I don't think we should necessarily wait on the Board of County Commissioners. Again, my take when I was standing in that room is that they thought what we were talking about is a very important issue. You know, there was even interest, again, I bring it up, there was interest about just using the urban areas, the urban transportation areas from FDOT as a quick solution. We didn't, me and Ms. Zornita were like, well, those things need to be looked at. But when they start saying things like that, it lets me know that they're interested in it and they want more information and they want the things we're talking about, you know, the questions we're asking answered. So to me, it's not a situation of waiting on them. If this wasn't important, they would have said, no, this isn't important. We're dealing with different things. We're dealing with this or that, you know, put that off to the side. They even talked about another action coming up after this that they may or may not take, may never come back up again. They're busy with a lot of things, including raised baseball, so who knows. But to me, that shows that this thing that we're talking about here is extremely important in this county. So for us, as the overarching agency for the county, overarching board for the agency of the county, to just sit back and say, well, we're just going to wait, I don't think that's appropriate. Now, I was the one who was ready to wait before. You know, we were going to go get contracts and stuff, and I said, hey, wait a minute, let's wait and make sure this is important. I went down there in person, and to me, what I got from those individuals who sent me here, who I work with in all sorts of different fashions, is that it's important to them, you know, and they want to know. So to me, it has to go forward. And I did want to make one other comment about that. I am kind of apprehensive about it going forward and how this agency is going to handle it. Again, the meeting you did last time was good. Your work to this point has been really great, but as this board has been being educated, so has staff in a lot of ways, right? You all went back and found a lot of information you weren't sure about. You found out great information, where the 80-20 came from. You found that all sorts of maps of old urban service boundaries that have changed over time. So staff's been educated a lot throughout this process, which is good, but it gives me kind of pause just freely putting it in staff's hands going forward. You know what I mean? And again, don't take that as a knock. When it comes to processing plan amendments, when it comes to updating the comp plans for Hillsborough County, City of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, this agency is par excellence. The work that staff does is amazing, okay? But that's a heavy workload in and of itself. Throwing geospatial analysis on top of that may not be the appropriate thing for us to do to the staff, okay? That's all I'm saying. I have the utmost respect for this work that the staff does, and it is great work. But what we're talking about here is things that I feel that not a lot of people in this county have been looking at, you know what I mean? Development Services could have been looking at this. Community Planning and Infrastructure could have been looking at this. There's a lot of other people who could have been looking at this, and I feel that we're all in the same boat right now and that it's been missed a little bit. So I'm kind of hesitant on who should be the one to take the lead going forward in this because, again, to Commissioner Kugler's point, this board has taken the lead so far going forward in this, you know, so. And again, I have the utmost respect for this staff. You all do great work. I definitely think it should be us, but there's a pause for me in that, you know what I mean? Because it took a struggle to get us to where we are now, you know what I mean? There's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of, you know, different directions, different feelings, so going forward, I don't want those miscommunications and, you know, things to go on, so, and any thoughts you have on that as we go forward on how to keep that clarity and make sure that, you know, we're doing what needs to be done would be appreciated.
Sure. Well, a couple of thoughts. I think that on that point, option A of the different choices of paths forward is critically important because that gets us to really crystallizing all of the issues that you all want looked at, how you want them looked at, what are the metrics for looking at them, and what this scope of services for a future consultant, you know, who, because I would agree that I think some of this evaluation is it wasn't in our work program to tackle this, so I think we're going to need to utilize a consultant to do a lot of this work, but I think having a facilitator to make sure we have some continued conversation and refinement of what that scope in a very detailed way with you all looks like is really important. And I say hiring a facilitator for that because, quite honestly, like this has been a real quick add to Melissa's workload in the last few months, and I don't think, you know, it's necessarily sustainable to have it be just on continuing to be handled that way. So. So that's why we've structured option A in that way. I also think, and I've thought a lot about our appearance at the Board of County Commissioners, and how, you know, in many cases they said things, but they didn't really say things that were particularly directive to the letter. But you're right. You could tell that they thought the issue was important, but they didn't really say what they wanted to be done next. I think that I feel very comfortable with us moving forward with option A through D on the approaches without having heard back from the Board of County Commissioners. I think that when we get to the conclusion of option A and we have a scope in hand of what it is we want that next analysis, the real meat of this to look like, then we're going to have I'm going to have a very clear picture of what kind of resources are needed, and that's going to include not only resources internal to our agency, but what other type of budget might be needed, what type of participation from county staff and other departments might be needed. And I think at that point, that really gives the Board of County Commissioners something to chew on and say, do you want to do this? And are you willing to give us, if we need funding for it, the staff support, all of that to do it? And I think that right now it probably, like it did to us at that point in time, felt a little nebulous, like, yeah, okay, these are some good questions they're asking, but where do we really go from here? I think we need to give them where to go from here. And that would be taking that next step of well, one of the next steps. You could do the others too at the same time, but at least option A and once we get to the conclusion of that, I think then we'd have something for them to react to. So.
Okay, I did want to echo that too. I think all the options were really great, and the only two timing things, obviously, after what I just said, I had a problem with were A and C, the ones where we wait. But the totality of this thing that you just put before us, Ms. Dickens, is really great.
You could do all four. Thank you.
Commissioner Cardenas.
So, a couple things. One, I feel like what you presented from the get-go of this is the beginning of a peeling of an onion, and I think that just like anything that's going to be different, you know, you've got one side and you've got the other side, and you said look in the middle, and staff might have started over here, but look at where they are now, right? And their staff is great, and they do things well, and I think hitting the gas on that is more of the option, because this is a mountain, and we're going to have a ton of decisions, and we're never going to get to the end of the decision if we don't make all these decisions as we're pushing through. Because at the same time, if the race things happen, that happens. As all of these other factors in our society, like AI and all this other stuff, is going to keep on happening, everything's going to start happening faster and faster and faster. And I think that if we sit around and wait, I don't think that, you know, whether there's 6 commissioners here or 10 commissioners here, I don't think that should make a difference. I think that we all started it. I think we have an idea of what we're looking at. I think we need the data before we can bring other people to have the conversation, because, you know, one developer is going to say they need this, and one builder is going to say they need that, and of course they do, because they're in business, and they're, you know, then there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, this is about how we're going to help our community and how we're going to grow and how we're going to try to grow in a smarter way, and look at the details of what we're using of why we're growing. And we need that data, so I think it's important that we push forward, and I think option A, it sounds like the one to do that with. And thank you again for, you know, finding that in between of what we need to try to grow in a better way.
All right. All good points. I noticed you throwing me under the bus for wanting to wait for everybody to come back there, Mr. Cardenas. I'm not going to forget that. Mr. Kugler.
Yes, thank you. In the lead up to the May presentation that you did a great job on, we had a little communication about what I was looking for. And I really was just trying to gather information, because I look at the USA, the urban service area, as a tool. And I promised you that I would reach out and look, you know, on the web for other options that are out there, just as a comparison. And whenever you have a tool, if you misuse it, you can hurt yourself. And if you have a tool that you use well, my fear was that statistically, I didn't know. I'd only been here a short time, and I didn't know if we have been misusing the USA. In other words, have people been primarily digging around the edge of the urban area to try to get services brought to those areas, and that's where the investment seemed to be? Or am I just looking at it from a short period of time recently that's what was going on? So I was hoping to find more information on what was really going on with the USA, and how can we make it work? Because if it's a good tool, it should allow the right things in the right place and the wrong things not to happen. You know, you can still have farmland, you can still have preserved land, you can still have urban growth all together if you use the tool right. And then when I looked at Boulder and Lexington, Kentucky, and Portland, Oregon, they used a different model. They used the urban growth boundary, UGB. And I thought, okay, that's just another tool. I hope we're using the right tool the right way. And what can I do to use that tool the right way? Maybe when we do our vote, seeing where somebody with a large investment is trying to get public monies to bring service in may not be the best approach. That may actually create what I'm used to in the northeastern cities of a dead city center, you know, during certain times of history, dead city center, and a large ring activity area around suburban growth and suburban sprawl. And I was thinking, those are the things we're trying to avoid. So just getting information was what I was really primarily looking for. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And if there's anything else that we can provide in terms of information, we'd be happy to try and bring that back too. So thank you.
All right. Are there any thoughts, any comments? Ex officios, you can chime in too. You know, you guys just sit down there just listening and smiling. All right. Any other comments, thoughts from the commissioners, ideas? All right, then, if not, I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this one, and I guess Commissioner Cardenas wants to make a motion?
Make a motion that we move forward with option A. Do we have a?
Option A for the approach, that's the facilitation of you all, the planning commissioner facilitation. Mm-hmm. And then the timing, I heard a few different things, so it was either we could move forward at this time, or we could wait until the UEA studies are done, or we could wait until there was further direction on the BOCC. It seemed like, from staff's perspective, it seemed like there was maybe some more consensus on the approach, but I just want to make sure we captured you all's thoughts accurately on the timing.
My thought is moving forward sooner than later.
Okay, so that would be.
Is that your motion?
Well,
because we're at motion time now. You want to?
We could talk about it too.
Okay.
That's.
Okay, so what does that mean per the options, I guess, is my question.
So the approach is to procure a consultant to facilitate discussions among the planning commissioners to identify and refine key issues related to agriculture, infill and redevelopment, housing affordability, and development patterns. And then a deliverable would include the refined topics that you all want to examine, topics of consensus on the detailed issues, topics for additional study, performance metrics, options, and a draft scope of services for further analysis.
I'm going to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say, and I just keep repeating it, I just heard everything in planning. Affordable housing, redevelopment, agriculture. I think it's still like what you said, Mr. Cardenas, this is like an onion skin. This is a huge thing. To me, it feels really like wild still. I don't feel like we know what we're doing. I don't feel like we have a focus. I feel like it seems like everything in planning. And unless I feel like we've already brought this to the commission. I'm really comfortable with waiting for them to say, there's something here that we think is a problem, but to me, there's no rush. We don't even know what we're talking about still. And I don't mean to be critical. I just feel like we're talking about everything in planning. If we were saying we have this community plan that we really want to work on, or we have an issue with the 80%, or if we have an issue with the boundaries, or something but to me, it feels like an extraordinary amount of money during a time where that's really under crunch right now. And I feel like we're making legislative direction without really knowing why, without really fully consulting with the commissioners. I don't feel as a board that we're moving ahead on something that feels productive. And I just continue to feel that this is just not a logical progression, and we keep spending more money, more time, more staff time when we've got really big projects that were directed by the elected officials that we're learning about this issue on. So if the board were to come and say, hey, yeah, y'all are onto something, let's move forward with that. We've had that conversation with them. I would be all for it, but I don't see what we're doing yet. To me, what you just talked about, let's look at all these things, is everything in urban planning. And I don't think we've come to a consensus about what we're looking at. And I'm not trying to be difficult at all. I thought it's been an interesting conversation, but until we can say we want to really focus on making sure we get more growth in the urban service area, or something that we can say in a 30-second elevator speech, we're just like wildly batting. And I haven't been convinced that we know what we're doing yet. And I don't think spending a lot more money on a consultant right now makes sense for them.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Commissioner Lincoln. You don't have to apologize for that. But I will say that staff, because obviously this is staff's presentation that you're throwing under the bus. We still love staff, though, be clear. They did limit it to $50K. So you're saying a lot of money. They did try and squeeze it down so we're not spending the big end of the consulting fee. The second comment I wanted to make on what you said is that I think that's kind of what the facilitator is doing, is precisely, they agree, what you're saying is valid, is that everything's kind of nebulous right now, and what that facilitator that they get for $50K is going to do is shrink it down to what we need to be looking at. So that's kind of, am I wrong, mistaken?
No, that's correct. I mean, because and we think it would be helpful to have a formal facilitated discussion because, you're both are saying the same thing. There's a lot of different viewpoints, there's a lot of different ideas, and so we as a staff need, some help facilitating what is most important and crystallizing those issues.
Right. Commissioner Cardenas.
So I'm envisioning something where we've got a set of questions. We're all going through these sets of questions. We're answering these questions, and they're going to use that to search and find data and develop an understanding of what we're looking for. And I think that that information is going to be what gives us more direction in what we're looking for. Otherwise, we don't have that.
Well,
we need that information.
At this level, what she's talking about with the facilitator is not them finding data yet. It's what they're going to get from us, what data we want our actual analytical consultant to look for. So we need a facilitator to kind of organize all these ideas, like Commissioner Lincoln said. We kind of have all these ideas floating around in space, bring in a facilitator to get to the meat of which of these ideas is important. Is it traffic infrastructure? Is it affordable housing? Is it development on the edge of the urban service boundary? Those sorts of things. And then once that facilitator has that list of things that are key and important, then we can turn and look at, okay, well, what kind of consultant do we need to analyze those lists of things? And that consultant will get us the data on those lists of things that we'll be able to answer questions with.
So it's more of a reason to move forward because we're still a couple steps away from getting to that.
Exactly. Well, you can look at it that way. Let me not. There's others who look at it differently. So there's all kinds of viewpoints here. Everybody's entitled to them. But that is one way of looking at it. Commissioner Seaman.
I mostly have a question for staff. So this, we're going to proceed forward anyway. And you had mentioned to me that we're going to do outreach within, the rural areas of the county, no matter what, correct?
Well, yes, that is a part of the scope of the urban expansion area study that Sophia presented earlier. So that's going to happen regardless because that's a part of that separate study. So option D was simply inviting y'all, which you're always invited to come to any of the community meetings that we host, but wanted to more overtly invite you all since you had mentioned wanting to hear from rural residents at the last workshop.
Okay, so my only comment is kind of unrelated to what we were just talking about, but if we're moving ahead with option D no matter what and having the public outreach meetings to which we are invited, I would suggest that we also get opinions of the people who are implementing these kinds of things via option B. So I don't really know, can we vote for, you said we could vote for multiple of them?
Sure, and just to clarify, at the option, the UEA outreach that you all are invited to, they're also meeting with some of the other stakeholders that you wanted to hear from. So like, I know that they've met with TBBA, they're meeting with the agricultural community. That is just happening within the lens of those particular studies. So it would not necessarily be an apples to apples. Like we're doing this for the UEA. We want to always invite you, but we're saying we have 3 a month. Please come if you want to hear directly. But we are hearing from a number of different stakeholders through that process. So I guess I wanted to clarify that. It would not necessarily be the same as having a facilitated discussion of a particular stakeholder group.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
All right, so back to the motion, unless there was some comments over here, just checking, peeking one time. No, back to the motion that was at the floor. We have to make a motion this meeting?
Now that I'm realizing this correctly, I guess my motion is for option B and option A.
Okay.
Okay, so both the facilitation of you all and the stakeholder facilitation. Does it, question from staff, does it make sense to have one before the other? Maybe that's something we can look at and kind of evaluate and move forward with, because I think we could, it's really kind of to some of the previous discussion, kind of a chicken or egg thing. Does our lens, does you all's lens, excuse me, inform the stakeholders? What questions ask the stakeholders? Do the stakeholders inform what you all look at. I mean, if I may, I think Melissa's or Anita's suggestion of doing getting facilitation from you all first probably makes a little bit more sense, just so then you all are continuing to drive the conversation. So that might be something to consider.
That's the way that I see it. I kind of think that we need to provide some direction.
Okay.
So in sequential order, does
Yes.
that mean you're thinking we recommend, stakeholders recommend, and then facilitator, or we, us,
Facilitator first.
facilitator, stakeholders?
Last.
Last.
Correct.
Facilitator first. Okay.
What you were saying was we would lead the facilitator.
Okay. So us, then A, then B.
Correct.
Okay. Second.
Wait, did we get the timing thing down?
Yes, I understand it. We're starting with facilitation of you all as a first step, and then moving to stakeholder facilitation. And Melissa, is that going to cause an issue in terms of we would need 2 separate contracts, or how would you like me to?
We'll figure that out.
Okay, all right.
And bring back whatever we need. Yeah, I don't know whether it would be the same person or 2 separate.
Okay.
We'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
But we do need some clarification on the timing options, whether you want us to move forward with this at this time or sometime later.
Mike, yeah.
I'd say option B, so at this time.
Okay, that's what he meant by option B.
Oh, okay.
So B and A. B timing, A option.
Okay,
Approach,
I misunderstood, so I'm glad we clarified. Okay, so you're saying, okay, so we, thank you. Thank you.
Under timing, option B, under approach, option A.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sieben.
Can I ask you to revise your timing to option B, approach option A and B? Because B is the stakeholder, am I wrong?
I agree with that too.
Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, A is the facilitator, so you
I
need
should have done different number.
timing B, approach A and B.
Timing
Sure.
A. No,
Timing
right,
B.
timing B. Approach A and B. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Next time I'll do like Roman
Timing
numerals
option B,
or something. Okay.
approach options A and B.
Okay, so the motion is timing option B, approaches A and B. Commissioner Singh.
I support that.
Wait, now we got a second. I didn't even expect
I'm
that.
generally just about moving forward. That's really what I'm looking for. Like, unless we have people talking about it and getting things moving forward, we're just going to play patty cake for a long time.
Okay, are there any other thoughts, questions? So we have a motion by Commissioner Cardenas to direct staff to move forward with timing option B and approach options A and B. Second to that motion by Commissioner Sink. Right. Any more thoughts, ideas, comments before we go on ahead and take this vote? I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to the clerk because I know this is going to need a roll call. So,
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Linkos,
Yes.
Sieben. Yes. Sink,
Yes.
Joseph.
yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Yes, we did.
Thank
need
you
a
all.
Roll call for you.
Thank you all,
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you for the hard work. All right. Now that we've made it past that hill, all right, next up we have briefings. So we have no actions on these. We're just getting a bunch of information. Everybody can relax a little bit. And our first briefing is 5A, HCCPA 26-02 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 7607-7709 Williams Road and Bessie Dix Road, Urban Service Area Expansion. Here we go again. And the presenter is Willow Mickey.
Good afternoon, Willow Mickey with your Planning Commission staff. I will be briefing HCCPA 2602, which is located at 7607 to 7709 Williams Road and Bessie Dix Road. This request is a privately initiated large-scale map amendment. It is made up of 3 parcels that total approximately 81.9 acres. The applicant is requesting to expand the urban service area. This amendment is associated with HCCPA 2603, which is a request to change the future land use category from residential 1 to residential 2 and residential 4. This plan amendment is part of the April 2026 cycle, located in the rural area, and is within the limits of the Tenota-Sassa Community Plan. And as I mentioned, it is associated with HCCPA 2603. Here is an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. The blue line indicates the urban service area boundary. It is located north of I-4, east of Williams Road, and south of Joe Ebert Road. Within the vicinity of the site, there are single-family uses surrounding the site on all sides. To the west, there is a middle school, and to the south are agricultural uses. North of the site is a cemetery, and further east is a clinical treatment center. This amendment would bring 81.9 acres into the urban service area, requiring at a minimum connection to public water and sewer. And that concludes the briefing on this item. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. And sort of look forward to that when coming back to us. All right.
And there's more.
Next up, we have, let me go back. Item 5B, HCCPA 26-03, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 7607, 7709 Williams Road and Bessie Dix Road, and the presenter is Willow Mickey.
Good afternoon. I'm Willow Mickey with your Planning Commission staff. I will be briefing HCCPA 2603, located at 7607 to 7709 Williams Road and Bessie Dix Road. This request is privately initiated in a large-scale map amendment. It is made up of 3 parcels that total approximately 81.9 acres. The request is to change the land use designation of these parcels from residential 1 to residential 2 and residential 4. Here's an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. It is located north of I-4, east of Williams Road, and south of Joe Ebert Road. And just to note that the original request included parcel 61568, with a proposed designation of Res 9. However, this parcel has since been removed from the application. Additionally, the initial application sought a Res 4 designation for the remaining 3 parcels, but this has since been revised to residential 2 and residential 4. The site is in the residential 1 land use category. Residential 1 allows for the consideration of agricultural, farms, ranches, residential, neighborhood commercial, offices, and multi-purpose projects. Surrounding land use categories include residential 1 to the east, south, and west, with residential 4 to the north. Public, quasi-public is located to the northwest, and additional Res 4 lies further southeast. There is also Res 2 located northeast of the site if you travel from the site approximately 1 mile north and a half a mile east. The request is to change the site to residential 2 and residential 4. Residential 2 allows for the consideration of uses such as agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. And residential 4 allows for uses such as agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the requested land use change. Currently under residential 1, the site can be considered for up to 81 dwelling units and 891,891 square feet of non-residential. The change to residential 2 and residential 4 would allow for the consideration of 189 dwelling units and 881,891 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in a potential increase in development potential by allowing consideration of higher residential density. That concludes the briefing, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information, and we will move on to our next agenda item, which is not going to be presented. 5C was moved into the next cycle, July 2026. So next month's meeting, sorry, July 2026. So we'll hear that one then, and we'll move on to item 5D, HCCPA 26-13, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 2909 Deer Road, and the presenter is Tyreek Royal.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Tyreek Royal, Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting HCCPA 2613-2909 Durr Road. The request is privately initiated, small-scale map amendment, approximately 1.12 acres. The request is to change the future land use designation from residential 1 to residential 2. The location of the site's in the eastern portion of Hillsborough County, a part of the April 2026 cycle. It's in the rural area, not located within a community plan. Here you can see an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. The plant city boundary is outlined by the blue dashed line. The site is located west of Durr Road. It's adjacent to single-family homes, and a church is located to the east. The site's in the residential 1 future land use category, allows for consideration for agricultural, farms, ranches, residential, neighborhood commercial, offices, and multi-purpose projects. Commercial uses are subject to locational criteria. As stated before, the applicant's requesting a change to residential 2. The residential 2 future land use category allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. The change from residential 1 to residential 2 would allow for increase in development potential by allowing higher residential density. The density of 1 dwelling unit per gross acre would increase to 2 dwelling units per acre. The commercial intensity would remain the same at a 0.25 FAR, or approximately 12,000 square feet. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the planning commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. Well, thank you, and we will move on to our next agenda item, 5E, HCCPA 26-14, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 15640 Carlton Lake Road, and the presenter is Tyreek Royal again.
Yeah, thank you. Tyreek Royal again, Planning Commission staff. This is HCCPA 2614, located at 15640 Carlton Lake Road. This request is privately initiated, small-scale map amendment, approximately 9.57 acres in size. The request is to change the land use designation from agricultural rural 1 to 5 to agricultural estate 1 to 2.5. The location of the site is in the southeastern portion of Hillsborough County, also part of the April 2026 cycle within the rural area and located within the limits of the BOM and South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plans. Here's an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. The urban service area is dictated by the blue line. It's approximately half a mile away. Hassan Farms is located to the east of the site. Currently, the site has a designation of agricultural rural 1 to 5. It allows for the consideration of farms, ranches, feedlots, residential, neighborhood commercial, offices, industrial uses related to agricultural and mining related activities. The applicant is requesting change the future land use category from AR 1 to 5 to AR 1 to AE 1 to 2.5. The AE 1 to 2.5 allows for consideration for farms, ranches, residential, neighborhood commercial, offices, and multi-purpose projects. The change from AR 1 to 5 to AE 1 to 2.5 would allow for an increase in development potential by allowing higher residential density. The density of 1 dwelling unit per 5 gross acres would increase to 1 dwelling unit for every 2.5 gross acres. Commercial intensity would remain the same at a 0.25 FAR, or approximately 104,000 square feet for non-residential uses. And that concludes my briefing. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. And we'll move on to our next agenda item, HCCPA 26-15, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 1908 Front Street, and the presenter is Lillian Lenahan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Lillian Lenahan, Planning Commission staff. I'm here to present HCCPA 2615, located at 1908 Front Street. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 0.26 acres. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use designation from residential 4 to residential 12. This is the general location map. It is in the urban service area within the limits of the Valrico Community Plan. It is located north of Main Street, west of Front Street, and east of 4th Street. Here is an aerial of the site. The site is outlined in pink. There are single-family residential uses to the northwest and south of the site, and directly west of the site is an existing commercial use that is a restaurant known as Fat Willie's Fish Camp, and directly south of the site is a county-owned park. Currently, the future land use designation is residential 4. The residential 4 category allows for a maximum of 4 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 0.25. The residential 4 designation allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. The site is currently surrounded by the residential 4 designation on all sides, with some residential 6 located further south of the site. The applicant is proposing to amend the future land use category to residential 12. The residential 12 category allows for a maximum of 12 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 0.5. This designation allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use development. Under existing conditions with the residential 4 designation, the site can be considered for a maximum of 1 dwelling unit or 2,831 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed future land use designation of residential 12, the site can be considered for a maximum of 3 dwelling units or 5,662 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment would allow for an increase in development potential by allowing higher residential density and greater commercial intensity. This includes my briefing for this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any at this time. Thank you. And move on to our next agenda item, item 5G, HCCPA 26-16, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 12401, North 22nd Street, and the presenter is Alexis Myers.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff. I'm here to present HCCPA 2616, located at 12401 North 22nd Street. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 13.83 acres. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use designation from residential 20 to residential 35. This is the general location map. It is in the urban service area and within the limits of the University Area Community Plan. It is located east of North 22nd Street and south of University Club Drive. Here is the area of the site. The site is outlined in pink, and a blue dotted line indicates the Tampa jurisdictional boundary. The subject property is the Villas at Unison Senior Living Facility. The site is in the Centers and Connections, FEMA Flood Zone X, and has wetlands on the property. The Seacoast at Upton Oaks Assisted Living Facility is located to the west. Additional group homes are located to the northwest, across North 22nd Street, and further southeast. The Viridian Apartments and College Town at USF off-campus housing are to the north. The Park at Orvieto Apartments are to the west, and more multifamily uses are further east and south. The James A. Haley Veterans Hospital is to the northeast. Additional public, quasi-public institutional uses are located to the south and southwest. And then the University of South Florida is to the east across Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. Single-family uses are to the east and further north. And the University Mall and Sunray Cinema is to the south, directly south. Currently, the future land use designation is residential 20. The Res 20 future land use category allows 20 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 0.75. The Res 20 category allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use developments. Other future land use categories shown in this map include Innovation Corridor Mixed Use 35, and Office Commercial 20 to the south, and Residential 6 to the east. The applicant is proposing to amend the future land use category to residential 35, which allows 35 dwelling units per gross acre or a floor area ratio of 1.0. The Res 35 designation allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use developments. Non-residential uses not part of the vertically integrated building shall meet established locational criteria. Next are the impacts. As far as existing conditions, currently under Res 20, the site could consider 276 dwelling units or 451,826 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed Res 35 designation, the site could consider up to 484 dwelling units or 602,434 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in an increase in development potential by allowing higher residential density and non-residential intensity. And this concludes my presentation for HCCPA 2616, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? All right. Thank you for the information. And move on to our next agenda item, 5H, HCCPA 26-18, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, Causeway Boulevard, Sub-Area A, and the presenter is Lillian Linehan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Lillian Lenahan, Planning Commission staff, and I'm here to present HCCPA 2618, located at Causeway Boulevard, and this is Sub-Area A. This request comes from the Florida State University Future Land Use Map Study that was conducted in 2024. As part of this Future Land Use Section update, Planning Commission staff engaged with students in an FSU capstone class to study 4 different areas of the unincorporated Hillsborough County, where there have been historical and recent development pressure, as well as areas that were identified as needing to be researched based upon development trends. These areas included subsets of the university area, the Port of Tampa, Brandon Crossings, and Causeway Boulevard. This effort is part of that study and recommendations on next steps. Due to the size and the varying recommendations of the Causeway Boulevard study area, staff decided to break down the study area into 3 separate requests, and this is the first of 3 total plan amendments being publicly initiated for this area. This request in particular is to go from the currently adopted future land use category of residential 6 to neighborhood mixed use 6, and this amendment is large in scale and approximately 73.12 acres. This is the general location map. It is part of the April 2026 cycle of amendments. It's in the urban service area and within the limits of the Palm River Progress Community Plan, and a portion of this particular amendment is located within the coastal high hazard area. This is a map that shows the location of all 3 publicly initiated amendments you will see along Causeway Boulevard. 2618, which is this current amendment, is outlined in purple. 2619 is outlined in light green, and 2620 is outlined in the dark green. Here is an aerial of the site for the current amendment, 2618. The site is outlined in pink. The site is south of Causeway Boulevard and is bound by 54th Street to the west and extends all the way to 76th Street to the east. Existing land uses within the site area include residential, vacant, and public, quasi-public, and institutional uses. And the uses to the north of the site along Causeway are comprised of mainly industrial and commercial uses, and to the south is mainly single-family residential. Currently, the future land use designation is residential 6. The residential 6 category allows for a maximum of 6 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 0.25. The residential 6 designation allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use development. The site is bordered by Office Commercial 20 to the north and east directly along Causeway Boulevard. There's light industrial along the far western edge of the site, and to the south of the site is more residential 6. The applicant is proposing, well, we are proposing to amend the future land use category to neighborhood mixed use 6. The neighborhood mixed use 6 category allows for a maximum of 6 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 0.25 for neighborhood commercial uses. And office, research, corporate parks, and multi-purpose and mixed use projects may achieve a floor area ratio of up to 0.35. This designation allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, research corporate park uses, multi-purpose and clustered residential and/or mixed-use projects. Under the existing conditions with the residential 6 designation, the site can be considered for a maximum of 438 dwelling units or 796,276 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed future land use designation of neighborhood mixed use 6, the site could be considered for a maximum of 438 dwelling units or approximately 1,100,000 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will allow for an increase in the allowable range of uses and the maximum allowable intensity of increase the maximum allowable intensity of specific uses with no increase in density. This concludes my presentation for this item, and I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? I did have one question. This is us, you said? It's publicly initiated?
Yes, it's publicly initiated.
What is the deal with it? Why are we doing this?
It has to do with a study that was conducted in 2024, a part of the future land use section update. It studied 4 different areas of the county: University area, Port of Tampa, Brandon Crossings, and Causeway Boulevard. And we decided to initiate this area on Causeway Boulevard. It was really large, and it had different land use designations that were changing, so we've split it into 3 separate amendments to allow you all to individually assess and vote on each of them separately.
So what did the study said, that we should change it to this land use category?
Yes.
Yeah.
And are we going to have more information on the study when it comes back, or?
So it was a student research study that was done a couple of years ago, and they provided information on recommendations on changes to the future land use map that then we took and looked at and said, okay, what do we think about these recommendations? And now we're bringing forward the ones that we think should be moved forward from their recommendations, and we've made some changes to what they recommended in terms of exact boundaries and in some cases the land use category that they recommended. But this was part of trying to continue to refine the future land use map and make sure it's staying current and that we're addressing different areas' needs and the opportunities for redevelopment. Particularly this area was one that was looked at because there have been changes in the services that are provided in the Palm River area. Now there's water and sewer that's provided along Causeway Boulevard, so there's more opportunities for redevelopment. So we asked them to look at this corridor in particular for that reason.
Is it an increase in intensity or density?
This will increase the range of non-residential
Eventually.
uses
Okay.
that can be provided because this portion of the corridor is in the coastal high hazard area.
Right.
We did not make a change in the density.
So it's intensity that goes up.
Yeah.
Okay. And my second question, thing that I pulled my hair out about that I noticed on this was that the line we drew crosses parcels like that. If you go back to, can you bring that map back up of the outline of it? It's not right. Well, I assume so. I saw this one and I kind of shut my eyes after that because I know myself. So, but it's not by parcel. It's not by the lot lines. If as an agency, if we're the planning agency that has the maps, why are we splitting, land uses on certain?
Good evening, or afternoon. I don't know what time it is. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. That is a very good point, and I do believe with the next 2, we squared off the sites. I'm not sure why that didn't happen there. I'm going to look into it.
Okay.
But I also wanted to add to the previous question, for when you all see this next, which won't be next month for the July public hearing because that agenda is very large, so the public-initiated items we're sacrificing, and we're going to the August meeting. So at that time, when you all receive that backup and report, it will dive into the study,
Okay.
the rationale for it, the recommendations, how we saw the recommendations, how we might have tweaked them, because they're not greatly different than the recommendations, but we did, because it is, a year and a half later, we did make a couple tweaks. That probably should have been one of the tweaks that we made. So let us look into that, and we're not at an advertising part right now, so if we do need to make a little change, we have the time to do so.
Okay.
That's a very good point, though. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right. Those are my only questions. Did anybody else have any comments, questions? And I think it's good to be proactive. I'm always speaking about being proactive. So don't think I'm against it because students did it or anything. I was just wondering, okay, we're just grabbing a big swath of area, but I'm definitely one who likes to be proactive, and we see something, we can add more intensity, add more density where we can, then that's always a good thing in areas that it can serve. So good job on being forward-looking on this one. All right, so no questions or comments from the commissioners. Well, thank you, and move on to our next agenda item, HCCPA 26-19 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, Causeway Boulevard Sub-Area B, and the presenter is Melissa Leinhard.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. I'm here today to present to you Causeway Boulevard Sub-Area B. So as Lily mentioned, these are publicly initiated amendments. This site in particular is about 21 acres in size, so it is small in scale. From a map amendment perspective, the request for this particular area, which I'll show in just a minute, is to go from its current future land use designation of residential 9 to community mixed use 12. So again, the general location, kind of in the center of unincorporated Hillsborough County. This is part of the April 2026 cycle of plan amendments. We're in the urban service area here, and we're also within the limits of the Palm River Progress Village Community Plan. Sorry, wrong button. So here's an aerial of the site. Of course, the site is outlined in pink. There is a residential 20 parcel that is in between these two areas, which is why it's bifurcated there at that exact point. The western boundary here is South 66th Street. The eastern boundary is South 78th Street. Again, we're in the Palm River area. Along this portion of Causeway, if you're familiar with it, the uses are generally characterized as commercial in nature, bordering on heavy commercial, potentially industrial. Along this portion of Causeway, you see things like auto sales, auto repair businesses, interspersed with vacant properties, offices, open storage uses, that type of thing. And then to orient people to the east of 86, which is just off the map, beyond the subject site is the Coca-Cola plant, so that might give you an idea of where exactly this is. As you can see to the north of this site, it is mostly single-family residential. So this slide shows the adopted future land use map. As I mentioned, the site, which is outlined in the blue, black hash mark, that is all residential 9, and to the north you see residential 9. Again, the center portion between the two areas, it is residential 20. And I did look it up, and it looks like it's an auto salvage yard right now, but not saying it can't redevelop in the future. So we have residential 9, mostly in this area north of Causeway. To the east, you have some office commercial 20 on the other side of 78th. To the south, you also see office commercial 20 along that Causeway Boulevard corridor, and then it transitions to residential 6, which is that bright yellow color. The request, as I mentioned, is to change the future land use designation from the residential 9 that it is today to community mixed use 12, which is shown in that pink area there. The residential 9 future land use designation would allow up to 9 dwelling units per gross acre. The maximum intensity that can be considered in that category is a 0.5 floor area ratio or 175,000 square feet, whichever is less intense. In addition, non-residential development that exceeds the 0.35 floor area ratio must be for office or residential support uses. So with this community mixed use 12, the FAR would remain the same with the 0.5, but the dwelling units per acre would go from 9 to potentially 12 dwelling units per gross acre. So that brings us to the impacts. The existing calculation would allow for development of up to 191 units on this property. And 464-ish or 1,000 square feet. The non-residential would not change in the potential of the community mixed use 12. However, the residential dwelling units could go up to potentially 255 dwelling units. So essentially the proposed amendment would allow for an increase in potential higher density residential, an increase in the range of commercial uses, because with the CMU 12, it would allow for a more commercial intensive zoning district as opposed to neighborhood serving commercial. And it would also introduce the potential of light industrial uses with the CMU category, CMU 12 category. And that concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions on this one from the planning commissioners? Not seeing any, we'll thank you for the information. And we will move on to our next agenda item. 5J HCCPA 26-20, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment Causeway Boulevard Sub-Area C, and the presenter is Jillian Massey.
Good evening, Jillian Massey, Planning Commission staff. I'm presenting the third of the 3 publicly initiated amendments on Causeway Boulevard, which we're calling Sub-Area C, and it's numbered HCCPA 26-20. This is, as mentioned, publicly initiated by Planning Commission staff. This Sub-Area C is a large-scale amendment, as it's approximately 101 acres. As previously mentioned, the rationale behind the request is the Florida State University Future Land Use Map Study that was conducted in 2024, and this is the third of 3 public amendments being initiated for this area. The request for this portion of the study area is to go from the currently adopted future land use category of residential 9 to residential 20. This request is part of the April 2026 cycle of plan amendments. It's in the urban service area and within the limits of the Palm River Progress Village Community Plan. This is an aerial map of the site outlined in pink. The site's located along portions of the north and south sides of Causeway Boulevard between 78th Street and closer to US Highway 301 on the eastern end of the boundary in the Palm River area. Along this portion of Causeway, the uses are generally characterized as commercial and light industrial nature, with various auto repair businesses, some vacant properties, offices, and storage uses. There are single-family residential homes further north and south of this area off of Causeway, and the Coca-Cola shipping and receiving area, which is designated as Urban Mixed Use 20, directly abuts a portion of the northern project boundary. This slide shows the adopted futures land use category of the area, which is residential 9. It allows for the consideration of agriculture, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multipurpose and mixed-use projects. The maximum density that can be considered is 9 dwelling units per gross acre, and the maximum intensity that can be considered is 0.50 floor area ratio, or 175,000 square feet, whichever is less intense. In addition, non-residential development that exceeds 0.35 floor area ratio must be for office or residential support uses. As you can see on this map, there's a portion in between the kind of two separate boundaries of residential 20, which is the darker brown color. Also within the area, you can see some office commercial 20 on the south side, as well as at the corner of 78th and Causeway on the north side. At the eastern end of this project area, you'll see some of these purple colors, the lighter one being commercial mixed use, or community mixed use 12, and the darker purple being the urban mixed use 20, which are the more urban intensive categories closer to the 301 in intersection. This area is proposed to be changed to residential 20, which allows for the same uses, just increases the potential density and intensity. So currently would be allowed 9 dwelling units per gross acre. That would increase to 20 dwelling units per gross acre. And currently under the residential 9, as mentioned, you could be considered for 0.5 floor area ratio, but the residential 20 allows for up to 0.75 floor area ratio. So under the current conditions, the site could be considered for up to 916 dwelling units or up to 2.2 million square feet of non-residential development. And the potential change to residential 20 would allow for up to 2,037 dwelling units, or approximately 3.3 million square feet of non-residential development. So ultimately, the proposed change would allow for an increase in development potential by allowing higher residential density and greater commercial intensity. However, the uses allowed would remain the same. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the planning commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. We'll thank you for the information, and we will move on to our next agenda item. Final briefing is 5K TACPA 26-03 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 4002 North Dale Mabry Highway and associated parcels, and the presenter is Emily Phelan. Mike.
Sorry. Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is TA CPA 2603. It is out of cycle of the amendments. It's located at 4002 North Dale Mabry Highway and associated parcels. This is publicly initiated. It's a regular scale amendment at approximately 121.73 acres. And the request is to go from public, semi-public to urban mixed use 60 and regional mixed use 100. As of May 28th, the request had been modified, and the presentation is based off of the modified request to urban mixed use 60 and regional mixed use 100, while your briefing packets still reflect the original request of the entire site being regional mixed use 100. The subject site is located within the West Shore Planning District, the West Shore Business Center, the Drew Park neighborhood, and the Drew Park community redevelopment area. The subject site is outlined in pink. and it is bound by North Dale Mayberry Highway on the east, West Tampa Bay Boulevard to the south, North Lois Avenue to the east, and West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to the north. The site is currently occupied with the Dale Mayberry campus of the Hillsborough College, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Hillsborough Tax Collector's Office, as well as other government facilities. To the south of the site is Tampa International Airport. To the east is Raymond James Stadium, and further to the northeast, located here, is Al Lopez Field. And to the north of the subject site, in the corner off of Dale Mayberry and West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, the southwest corner, is Steinbrenner Field. Along West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is a mix of commercial and industrial uses. Along Dale Mayberry is primarily commercial uses. To the south is just a mix of commercial uses in the airport. To the west, there is some multifamily located here with my mouse. And moving further north, this whole area is a single-family detached neighborhood, and then it transitions back into commercial uses to the north. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is represented with the public, semi-public designation, which is to the east, south, in that corner of the subject site. To the north along MLK is the light industrial designation and the community commercial 35 designation that is also along Dale Mayberry. To the west, that single-family neighborhood that was pointed out in the aerial is with the residential 20 future land use designation. And then further south is the regional mixed-use 100, which does include the International Mall. This is the proposed future land use map. And again, as I said, that the request had changed from when your briefing packet was put together. The site is represented largely by the regional mixed use 100 designation, which is the dark magenta color. And this sliver right here is what was changed to the urban mixed use 60 designation. It is just over 6 acres that was changed, and it is about 150 feet into the site. And under the existing public, semi-public designation, the maximums are not defined. Instead, where am I? Instead, the maximum development potential is determined by the compatibility of the proposed project with the context of the surrounding area. Under the proposed UMU 60 and RMU 100 designations, the site can be considered for a maximum of just over 11,900 dwelling units, or approximately 18.4 million square feet. This amendment would define residential and non-residential maximums and promote a mixture of uses. It would also remove the requirement for public, semi-public uses to be on the site. And that concludes my presentation, if you have any questions.
All right, are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? Commissioner Kugler?
Just to guess, is this Hillsborough County Community College?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sink?
Did you say it prohibits, community, what was the last part you just said? It prohibits?
It would remove the request to UMU 60 and RMU 100 would remove the requirement for public, semi-public uses to be on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh, Commissioner Orton's alternate. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Just remember, Cayman like the islands.
Okay.
Will there be a known mix of unit types for this amendment at all? Just thinking down the line, I mean, I know we're way up in the 10,000 foot level, but I'm just also thinking about how my particular organization, which is the school board, is going to be able to respond to 11,294 units. Because we have a varying factor when we try and calculate the impact of an amendment.
So I can note that, and this will come back next month, and I can note that and talk to the applicant about that. The applicant would know better what types of units, and if there are going to be a mixture of uses like that, they would know that,
Sure.
not necessarily me.
Yeah, but if I may.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I would just say that as part of the land use category, there is no requirement for any particular mix, so we could not commit to what the applicants
Oh, of course.
at this point.
Of
But
course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're all the way up at this
Yeah.
level, and it has to come down a little bit more
Right.
till final development, whatever that looks like. But I'm just thinking
But
ahead,
we can try and get you as much information as.
and we understand it changes, just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
All right. Commissioner Singh.
One question, sorry.
Yeah, go.
What was the logic for pulling out that sliver?
Let me flip back. to
I was
my-
going to ask that a big question.
So staff had concerns with the UMU 60, with the regional mixed use 100 being across the entire site and the impacts that it would potentially have to that residential 20 designation. We spoke with the applicant and worked with them to have just that piece reduced to the UMU 60 to provide some type of transition between the intensity of the RMU 100 and the residential 20.
All right. Go ahead.
It just seems like 150 feet of transition is, why bother at that point, right? Like, it's just interesting. If we can get further explanation on what that, like, really what that looks like, because it doesn't really feel like transition. It's 150 feet sliver down a road. Like, what do we really accomplish?
Ms.
Sure,
Sornita.
we can try and get some more information on what that will accomplish, but that was the concern that we expressed to the applicant, and that is how they responded, was with that amount of, which will, under Tampa's plan, they would not be able to put a development with higher density or intensity within that 150 feet. So I guess that was their way of committing to having some level of step down in that area. But yeah.
I have a question for you, Ms. Sornita, probably less than for you, but are we, as an agency, looking at that neighborhood that's in there? I noticed from the map image, it's nestled. I mean, you got residential nestled right in between industrial, public, semi-public, and, you know, obviously this is coming in. They just seem like the hole in the donut, and it just seems like they could get left behind real easy. I don't, know the economics or socio-demographics of what's going on in that region, but I think as
Welcome
an
to
agency,
Drew Park.
Yeah, we should.
That is, it's been a hodgepodge since World War II. That was an old Army Air Corps base, and before there was any significant zoning in Tampa, all of these different uses moved into this area, and this is something that the city, the community has never been able to clear out. So it's a very interesting area.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they do have a CRA plan and there have been some efforts to make some uses non-conforming in other parts of the area, but they have not, there hasn't been anything done with that residential 20. Certainly, if this whole change comes to fruition, that may bring that question back up.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions, comments, or thoughts on this one? It seems like it's going to be an exciting one when it comes back, and we'll look forward to it coming back to us. Thank you for the information, Ms. Phelan. All right. Next up, we have our Executive Director's report, and the presenter is Melissa Zornita.
Yep. Hi, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director. I'm going to try and be real quick because I know we're already at 5:30. My report is at your seats. One thing I wanted to point out of the list of topics, one of the meetings that I participated in with the county, with Development Services Director and County Attorney's Office was related to Senate Bill 686, which is related to agricultural enclaves. And there was a presentation that they were preparing for that was last Wednesday. We worked on the interpretation of the bill and how it would work and help in the preparation for that presentation. But it essentially allows, if a piece of property meets the definition, and there are a couple of different criteria in which a property could meet an agricultural enclave. If a property meets that, then they can bypass the comprehensive plan and zoning and get an approval for development comparable to what is surrounding them on the comprehensive plan or in the development pattern surrounding them. So one example that came up at the Board of County Commissioners meeting was the property at Lutz Lake Fern Road and the Suncoast Parkway that we've heard a couple of times here in the Keystone area, and how that abuts Pasco County, and it has the potential to qualify as an agricultural enclave, or some of their property does, because you do have to be have an agricultural tax exemption for 5 years. And that looking at the surrounding development pattern, they could consider some of the densities from Pasco County potentially as not just the more rural residential and semi-rural densities that are surrounding it in that area. So that's going to be one that I think will be, the Board of County Commissioners asked Mr. Gormley for updates monthly at their land use meeting on whether or not there have been any applications for agricultural enclaves. It does have to come to the board for a public hearing, but they don't really have a lot of discretion in that hearing. They kind of just get to affirm what has been determined by the staff. And so that's something we'll be watching to see how that is implemented. The statute appears to have a sunset right now in 2028 to see how many of these enclaves emerge, how much it's utilized, and how that impacts the comprehensive plan, and whether there are some things, because I personally like the future land use map to be reflective of what is on the ground and transparent about the development pattern that's allowed there. So that may mean there are some catch-up amendments that we need to make to reflect that, so that people moving in see what is so about an area. But that's something we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Can I ask a question here really quick?
Sure.
Before we get off to the next one? Community plans, because you bring up specifically the Keystone Odessa area. The community plan has been a big reason the Keystone Odessa one hasn't been able to develop. So it sounds to me like this new legislation could be in direct opposition with some of our community plans, which may be something we need to keep an eye on in this agency too. I get that development services and the Board of County Commissioners are going to be doing their little back and forth with Tallahassee, but if things like community plans that have been placed into our comp plan are in direct opposition with legislation that's going forward, then that may be something we need to think about and consider, because I don't think we definitely probably don't want that, right? Community plans going in opposition of state things, so.
Sure, this piece of legislation, I mean, it goes around the entire comprehensive plan. So, and I would say we do not.
I get that, but the people in Keystone and Odessa.
Right.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but when we have it in our comp plan and then, this is coming in, and I get it, at that point you could just point fingers and say, it's not us, but again, you may want to just put it in your ticker, just something to think about there. There may be a better way for us to deal with those things, And again, this, like you said, it's sunsets, so this isn't quite, the thing just yet, but I could see that as an issue going forward. So
I've got a question about that. Yeah. So, I mean, is it acting almost like Live Local?
Yeah.
It's just another version of Live Local that we've kind of worked around before. So just another version of preemption.
It is similar to that, yes, and that it gives a sort of administrative approval to these. Except there's this requirement for a board hearing. So it's a little bit different. Yeah.
I bet they love that down on the second floor.
Y'all can watch the presentation from last Wednesday's meeting. So as you saw earlier today, the future leaders in planning students were in the meeting. Commissioner Linkus spoke to them about a master's in planning earlier today as well. They will have their closing presentation of their project that they work on throughout the week this Friday from 11 to 12:30 in this room. So if any of you all are interested, I think Bryn sent out an email about that, but if you're interested and available, would welcome you all to join for that. Commissioner Rodriguez is going to speak to them later. I think somebody from the school district is speaking too, maybe? Well, I'll find out. Y'all have in the past. But at any rate, we've got a regular scheduled meeting set in July 13th. And just a reminder to make sure you've still got that Temple Terrace special meeting on August 17th on your calendars. And our planning and design award entries are open with a deadline of July 17th. So encouraging everyone, if you know of a great project, please let them know that that deadline is approaching. I'm not going to read through all the plan amendment updates because there are quite a few there, and y'all can read them and so that we save some time. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Not seeing any. We will move hurriedly along to our next agenda item. Other business, chair's business, I have none. I know everybody's thankful for that. Old business, we have this recommendation to establish structured public comment time limits. Do we have to take that up now? Can we push that?
You don't. You absolutely can push that to the next meeting. Commissioner Kona, who raised it's not
Here.
today.
Is everybody okay with that? I want to make sure that, everybody wants to get some dinner, so, okay, I see a lot of nodding. All right, so we'll push that to the next meeting. New business, does anybody have any?
I just want to be real quick, but I feel like maybe we need to look at attendance. I feel like we've been close to not having quorums the last couple months, and maybe it's just me, but maybe we could look at that.
We usually do at the end of the year. I think we publish typically at our meeting at the end of the year. I'd like to make sure that everyone's aware, and I try to keep up with it myself because I know that the different municipalities do look at attendance for all you in the sound of my voice, and when attendance starts to get a lot, the people who sent you here don't like that, so it's definitely a thing. But Ms. Ornita, did you want to?
I mean, we do keep track of it, so I'm happy to share the spreadsheet of that at any point.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like, I know you've sent out a few emails saying we're close, and I feel like that's been kind of a frequent occurrence this year's occurrence, so maybe it's worth discussing.
All right. And any other new business? No, not seeing any. Then we'll move on to committee reports. Does anybody have any committee reports? I have one committee report as usual. The TPO board met last on May 13th, and we looked at the four-year 27-28 unified work program. We adopted that. After a bit of discussion, there were no major changes. We took staff's recommendation and adopted it. We also received Henderson Boulevard and Manhattan Avenue Vision Plan, a little study they did on improvements to Henderson Boulevard and Manhattan Avenue in the city of Tampa. We also received that, approved it, accepted it, whatever we do with these studies, we gave it the nod. And we looked at the TPO priority list for year 28 through 32, and we approved that also, or adopted it, whichever action we took. It was a positive affirmative action, whatever we did. Some small conversation around that, but it was, again, adopted, approved, affirmed as per staff's recommendation, TPO staff. Our next meeting of the TPO is on Wednesday night at 6 p.m., so I'll be back here for that, and that's downstairs on the second floor. It is the big one, the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, so we have our public hearing for that, which hopefully doesn't go into all hours of the night with public comment, but I will, of course, be reporting to you on that in our next meeting next month. So it's all from the TPO. Are there any other committee reports, thoughts, comments? No, not seeing any. Then that is it for this meeting. So what time is it now? 5:41. What's 30 minutes from that? 6:15-ish? Is that good? You always make it less. All right, 6:10. Okay. We'll be back, since we went over, we'll be back at 6:10 to start our public hearings. And at 5:41 p.m., this regular meeting is adjourned.